go. Hello, my name is Beton and I'm with SIP. And today we are bringing you a tier list for commons and uncommons for command for the limited formats. So let's get into it. We will be starting from the bottom and going to the top. So we will be starting with the weakest card. And the weakest card in this set for the command is Enforced Loyalty. It's 2 mana, double command card that allows you to draw 2 cards if you defeat your own unit. So basically you pay 2 mana to gain nothing, because you use a card, you sacrifice a card to gain 2. So your value is at 0. And in addition to that, you need to play double command. So considering all the pros and cons, you should never play this card in limited. And let's go to the next one.
So now we have outflank. So for 1 resource, you can attack with 2 units, 1 at a time. And this card is just very weak in limited, because the only thing that it does, it allows you to attack with those 2 units. And so basically it gives only tempo, and tempo is not that relevant in this format. And sometimes in late game, it can save you the game, but this type of effect is too unreliable to play it. That's why you shouldn't really pick this card.
I fully agree. So we are going to the next card, and now we are going to the cards that you should consider playing if you don't have any other options. So it's a D tier, and it's for 3 mana. It's an event, Moment of Glory, and give a unit +4/+4 for this phase. Okay, and when do you want to play this card? This card is only playable if you have a deck that really wants to finish the game early, because there is not really a lot of cards that will benefit from this effect. Because if you use it to trade with the card will still die at the end of the turn. So it's basically 3 mana, deal 4 damage to the base.
Yep.
Or you can also use it at the really weak stated unit to trade with a big unit. But if you're using it like this, you will always you will consider losing on value, because you will use 2 cards to kill 1. But because of the versatility of the fact that you can do both, it's still a playable card, and sometimes it will be okay. But you should never consider like running a lot of them, and you should not pick them or put it into your deck if you have any other alternatives that are just better.
It's also pretty alright with Sentinels, because if you buff the Sentinel and the opponent has ready units, they have to attack your Sentinel, and then you get the benefit of this +4/+4 buff multiple times, likely. But yeah, it's still too unreliable to play this card.
Yeah.
So now we have this Kyraxi Heavy Fighter. So 4 mana, 3/3 in space with Overwhelm, and on attack you may exhaust another friendly unit. If you do, this unit gets +3/+0 for this attack. And this card is this low on the list because it just has pretty weak stat line for resources. Like if you compare it to something like Punishing One, which has 3/4 for 3 stat line in space, it's just really underwhelming. And also the ability isn't that great also, because I guess you can exhaust a unit, so you exhaust something little which has something like 2 attack or 1, and then you get net positive of 1 or 2 damage, but that's still not enough to make for the stats that are just really weak on this one.
Yeah, it's a 4-drop in space that's trade with a 2-drop. That is uncommon rarity. So it's really hard to play it. Of course, it's still a space unit, and you need few of them in every single deck. So if you don't have any other and you don't have 4 drops, you can consider running it. But as in most cards in D tier, you shouldn't just drop them if you can do anything else. And next, we are going to a Warzone Lieutenant. It's a 1 mana 2/2 trooper. And this card would be in Z tier, but he is amazing in Ray. So in Ray, this is basically a Battlefield Marine. So a 2 mana 3/3. And 2 mana 3/3 is an amazing unit. It's a 2 mana 3/3 without any downside. So in Ray, pick him. If you have Ray, if you can reliably play few of them, you should. But with any other leader, just don't put this card in your deck. 1 mana 2/2 is a terrible stat line because most 2-drops in the game are at 2/3. So it will just deal 2 damage, and you will need to require few actions to do it. And there isn't really many leaders in this set that has an ability that requires you to pay 1 mana. So 1-cost units are always good if you can spend the additional mana you gain. But in this expansion, you really can't do it. So any other 2-drop will be better than this game.
Okay. So now we have price on your head. So 2 mana bounty that when it is attached to a unit, the unit gains bounty, and when that unit dies, you put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. So it's basically a ramp card. And this one is in weak unless specific leader because it's really great in Bosk, since Bosk allow you to ping enemy units that have bounty on them. And outside of Bosk, this card is not that great because it's pretty hard to get the value out of this bounty because you have to play 2 resources in order to play this card. So you don't play a unit on that turn, and then you have to have a unit that can kill the enemy unit, and that's a lot of setup for just getting a ramp. So yeah, it's very clunky to play outside of Bosk.
I will only add that ramp cards are really good early game to ramp to your leader or to the cards you want to play. And they are really a dead card later in the game. And with price in your head, there is often a way that you play it on turn 1 or on turn 2 on enemy unit, and because of the waste of value, you will never be able to kill this unit because your opponent will gain superiority on the arena, even in space or in ground. So this card is just extremely risky outside of Bosk. And next we have a 1 mana event, Commission. It search top 10 cards of your deck for a bounty hunter, item, or transport card. Reveal it and draw it. And it also has a smuggle for 3 mana. This card would be in D, in mech tier, like Recruit was in the previous set. But there is one specific scenario that you really want this card in your deck. And it is if you manage to draft or open Boba's Armor. And if you're playing Boba Fett, finding Boba's Armor is such an incredibly strong combination that running a card just to find it is good enough. Also, if you have really powerful bounty hunters like IG, then you can also consider running it. And because of the smuggle effect, you can put it in your resource at the early game and play it when you need it. So it's not that bad to be run in your deck, but it's still is not a card that you should be adding unless you don't have anything better to add.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Next up on the list we have Collections Starhooper. So 2-cost 2/2 unit in space, which has smuggle for 3 resources. You can play this card from your resources. And this card is very strong in Hondo because Hondo allows you to give experience token whenever you play a unit from your resources using smuggle. So in Hondo, this card is basically a 3/3 for free when played with smuggle, and also since it was smuggled, it draws your card. So that's a pretty good value. But outside of Hondo, this card is not that great. I mean, it's okay to drop because 2/2 stat line trades with most units in the early stages of the game. So with all of the 3/2 for 2 space units in the for 2 resources, but yeah, it's just okay and really good in Hondo.
It's a totally average card. It's also okay in Cat Bane because it's an underworld unit, but that stat line is just mediocre. You would much rather run a card with one more stat in attack or defense. If it would be a 2 mana 2/3 card in this expansion, it would probably be in A tier. But with 2/2, the best you can do is go 1/1, and it's okay, but it's nothing great. Next, we are having a 1 mana bounty. It's Bounty Hunter's Query. The attached unit gains search the top 5 cards of your deck, or 10 cards instead if the unit is unique, for a unit that costs 3 or less to play it and play it for free. Okay, so basically you paying 1, and you are banking on the fact that when you kill the unit, you will gain 2 mana because you will be able to play a free drop from the top cards from the top 10 cards in your deck. It's really unreliable to put unless you're playing Bosk, because the 2 mana reduce on the free drop is great, but it's nothing to. It's not the card of effect that will win you the game. But putting it on the card and not gaining anything from it because your opponent will put it back in his hand, will protect it in some way, may make you so much behind in value. And like if you get the card 5 turns later, it will not have any impact on the game. So just for that, run this card in Bosk and try to avoid this card in other decks, unless you have a really decent removal or ambush card that will guarantee you that you will have value from it.
Yeah, exactly. So next there is Privateer Crew, so 2 cost 2/2 unit, which has Smuggle for 6, and when played using Smuggle, they gain 3 experience tokens. So this card is the main use case of this card is playing it from Smuggle, because 2/2 for 2 is very weak stat line, but 5/5 for 6 is okay, and it's really good in Hondo because it's 6/6 in Hondo that draws your card. So it's very similar to the 2/2 ship for 2. The same concept basically applies, and that's the reason why this card is okay. It's slightly better than the 2/2 ship in other decks, because 5/5 for 2 is still okay stat line, but yeah, it's nothing amazing.
Yeah, it's also underworld, so you can consider running it in Cat Bane, but in Cat Bane that card is not that great. So yeah, it's mostly the card for Hondo. And next we have Outlaw Corona. It's a 3 mana space unit that has 3/5 stat line, has underworld trait, and has a bounty that will put the top card of your deck into play as a resource for your opponent when they kill it. So it's an extremely risky card to play. But 3/5 in space for 3 mana will trade with every single ship that is 4 or cheaper, and will survive most of the trades. So it's trade with Punishing One with the 3/4 red unit. That is just an amazing card. And every other 3 or lower spaceship will just die to him. And yes, if you play this card and your opponent captures it, or your opponent kills it immediately, you may even lose the game because of it. So it's an extremely risky card. But on the other hand, it secures you a space arena, and if you don't have enough space cards, or if you really want to dominate in the space arena, you may consider running this card. And even with really, really big downside, it's still a card that it's okay to run just because how strong 3/5 in space will be. Of course, if you're running against Bosk, you should just probably put this card in the resource because it will be too easy for him to take care of it. But on any other opponent, this card is simply okay and will probably surprise your opponent on how many advantageous trades you will have with it.
Okay. Next we have Equay Pirate Gang. So 4 resource, free ambush that has smuggle for 5 resources. And yeah, ambushes are in general, ambush is a pretty good keyword in limited. This card has quite weak stat line, so that's why it's not higher, but free with ambush is alright, and then you can play it from its smuggle for 5, which is another option that is pretty good. And also it's an underword for Catbane.
Yeah. It's also really good with Boba, because then it's a 4 attack for 4 ambush. Yeah. And because limited is such a low removal format, that's why even understated ambush units are okay to be played. And for the same reason, a timely intervention. It's a 1 mana tactic that gives your card ambush. So you pay 1 and you pay the cost of the card, and the card enters play with ambush. It also has a smuggle for 2. It's really a decent card because it may surprise your opponent to play a card that shouldn't have smuggle and trade efficiently, even though you will be paying more for the card than normal. So it's a decent card, but I would only add that you shouldn't really run, I think, more than 1, maybe maximum 2 copies of them in the deck, because you may run into a situation that you will have more cards that add smuggle than cards that can benefit from it. But the ability to be played from smuggle saves it from being an unreliable card, because if you don't have any play for this in the early game, put it on the resource and play it at the end game when the ambush cards really matter, because when you are racing and you can kill a unit that will deal you damage this turn, will make a lot of difference in the later stages of the game.
It's basically a really good card with any unit that has a strong on attack ability in later stages of the game and that doesn't have ambush already. And yeah, that's makes this card really strong. Like the main use case I would advise to play, in which you would like to play this card, is from the smuggle.
Yeah, I would also add that this card is really good with Boba.
Yeah.
Because it will also benefit from his ability, and then even if you play it from hand, paying 1 mana for 1 attack in most cards will be okay. So then you do not even lose on the value proposition. Okay, so let's go to the next card, and next card is
Scanning Officer. So 2 cost to attack 3 HP unit that has 1 plate ability that allows you to reveal up to 3 enemy resources, and you defeat each resource with a smuggle keyword, which you revealed this way. And for each resource defeated this way, its controllers puts the top card of their deck into play as a resource. And what's really important in this one is the fact that the card that is, in case you destroy one of the opponent's resources and place 1 or more from the top of their deck into play, those resources are exhausted. So if you manage to play this card on first round and you reveal 1 or 2 cards with smuggle, you can basically stop enemy from playing 2-drop on first round, and later on the same concept applies. You can basically just stop enemy from playing the card that he wanted to play in that specific round. And also, there are just enough smuggle in this set to make this card pretty consistent.
Yeah, it's a really, really strong card. Like the best case scenario is amazing, and the worst case scenario is a 2-mana 2/3, which is also an okay card to play. So whenever you can, it will be always a decent 2-drop in your deck. And next we are going to the 8 years, so a strong card that you should consider picking early in the draft. And also, whenever you pick a color to play in sealed, you should look how many of those cards you have. So it's a 5-mana unit. It's this discerning veteran. It's a bounty hunter, 3/4 stat line, and when this unit enters play, it captures a non-enemy ground unit. And capture effects are quite strong. They are not amazing because the unit may come back, but at worst it will be a tap ability because it will be brought back exhausted. But on the plus side, your opponent still needs resources to kill your unit before they get their unit back. Also, it may capture any unit, so any ground unit, even higher costed, which makes it really, really reliable in the later stages of the game. Because you may capture a buffed unit, and the unit will lose all the buffs that it got. It will lose every upgrades on it. So because of this, and that the fact that the stats are not terrible, it's not very good. Like 5-mana 3/4 is below average stats, but the fact that it will also like lock the ground for a little bit, it makes it really, really a strong contender to be played. And you will need to be playing around capture whenever you play versus a command color.
Okay. Next we have Gamorrean Retainer. So to cost 3/2 with Sentinel when if you control another green unit. And this one is pretty straightforward. It's just a really good 2-drop that has 3/2 stat line. And also the Sentinel sometimes is helpful because you can just free attack is enough to kill most targets that attack into him. So yeah, just a really good unit. And the fact that he has a 3/2 stat line instead of 2/3 just makes him even better.
I will also add that he's underworld, so it's also a bonus because you can bring him back with some cards, and in Cat Bane he is stronger than he should.
Yep.
So that's for that. And it just whenever you play a 2-mana 3/2, you always feel good because it will definitely trade with an other 2-drop. There is not many first one plays that will survive 3 attack, and in Cat Bane there is not a single one turn 1 play that will survive Gamorrean Retainer. And next, we have a 3-mana event. It's a Take Captive. So a friendly unit captures an enemy non-leader unit in the same area. And in limited, most removal is strong. Yeah, this removal is conditioned that you need to have a card on your own. And it's also conditioned that the unit may come back later in the game. And even with those downsides, it's still a really strong card because like your 2-drop can capture an 8-drop, and your opponent will still need to spend resources to kill the unit that captured, and they will also need to waste actions because you can capture an active card, and even if they kill it at the same turn, it will come back exhausted.
One thing that is really good about this card is the fact that you can play it on your own leader. So leaders in this game in general have quite a lot of HP. And yeah, if you manage to play this card on any unit basically that has a lot of health, then the opponent has to probably commit more than one attack to get the unit back. So it might help you to keep that unit captured for longer.
I will also add the same thing with the veteran. Capture cards are really strong versus units that are upgraded because they will lose those upgrades when they go away. And next, for us, the strongest card in commons and uncommons in Command is Reputable Hunter.
Yeah, so 3 cost, 3/4, and if an enemy unit has a bounty, this unit costs one less to play. And this card is what makes Jabba a really good leader in Limited, because Jabba allows you to place a bounty on any enemy unit in the first round. So you can play this card as a 3/4 in the very first round, which will trade with basically every single 2-drop that your opponent will play. And I guess in case the opponent wants to avoid getting the bounty and you playing the Reputable Hunter, if they pass, you can just take the initiative and proceed to the next round, and it's still okay because Jabba has quite good late game since he deploys quite late and has has quite a few good late game cards like his Rancor and stuff like that. And even outside of Jabba, this card is pretty good. It's really good in Bosk, and being a 3/4 for free is just an okay stat line also. So yeah, this card has just 2 decks where he really shines, and outside of that, he is still alright. And there are quite a few random bounties on some cards in this set, so sometimes he might come as a 3/4 for 2, even though you don't play any bounty on an enemy unit.
Yeah, there is every single color got a 1 mana bounty card, and there is plenty of bounty cards in the set. And even without any benefit, it's still a 3 mana 3/4, so the stats are really okay. So just for that, for the consistently that this card has, it's definitely the strongest common and uncommon in Command. So as you can see, Command as a color has really consistently strong cards, but they don't have anything that is amazing. They don't have any card that you go, oh, I play this, I will play with this color, at least in common and uncommon. But as was in the previous set as well, they have a lot of cards that do the same thing, so have decent stats, and they do something when they enter, that you should consider running this color if you play limited.
Yeah. When we compare this color, the command from this set to the previous one, in Spark of Rebellion, command was probably the best color that you could play on limited. This time around, it's slightly weaker, and there are some better options, but it's still a decent choice. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, but at least for me, I still think Command Ray will probably be the strongest deck in limited.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks everybody for listening, and have a great day.
See ya.